Well, good morning. Welcome to Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training. This is my weekly live webcast, and we're looking at some news from around the world today. First story is that the UK round the world couple who were arrested in Iran at the beginning of last year have actually been sentenced now to 10 years for security crimes by an Iranian court. An illegal e-bike rider has got a 6-month road ban after a fatal crash. There have been more bike jackings, but Warwickshire Police have managed to follow a tracker and recover some stolen bikes from a container. We'll have a look at some UK and world news in brief. One story I missed, Paul Sample sadly has died. Oxford Products may withdraw their sponsorship from BSB over nicotine pouches. That's an interesting story, as is the fact that Suron, the Chinese electric motorcycle manufacturer, have been awarded $10 million in a US court for a design infringement by a Hong Kong-based electric motorcycle manufacturer. We'll also have a look at Royal Enfield's expansion plans and a new budget adventure bike from Moto Morini. And we'll finish off with the in-depth section today, where we'll look at the relevance or the irrelevance of the Brough Superior Special Edition RMB01. So grab yourselves a brew, pull up a chair and stay with me for the next 45 minutes of topical news, sometimes controversial views, and occasional better biking tips. So that's what's in today's show. Let's move on to the first bit, where I'll tell you about a few things that I have found interesting in the news. Now, I generally tend to steer clear of politics on this show if I possibly can, but just occasionally there are times when I do feel that it is worth mentioning something, and this time it's I couldn't let this one go. It was the Shadow Transport Minister Greg Smith. He claimed that motorcycles face a crisis on UK roads. So how does he work that out? Well, first of all, he repeats the familiar refrain, one we hear just about every spring. Motorcycles account for just 1% of all motor vehicle traffic, yet riders make up 21% of road deaths and 12% of all road casualties in Britain. And, quote, a motorcyclist is more than 40 times more likely to be killed or seriously injured than someone in a car. Well, both true, both well known, and both something Tory transport ministers did nothing much to tackle while in power, as Mr. Smith actually admits when he says it's something, quote, we have failed to confront with the urgency it deserves. And he goes on to say that riders are often thrown from their bikes, ending up hidden in hedges, ditches or fields, sometimes tens of meters from the road. Thrown from bikes? Yes, probably. Often hidden? Well, I've seen no figures to support that claim. Yes, I'm sure there will be occasions when, well, I've reported on some where motorcyclists have come off and have remained undiscovered. And he rounds off by saying that nothing is more important than the first hour post-crash, and that, quote, a seriously injured rider may lie undiscovered for long stretches of time, even on a relatively well-used A road. The difference between a 5-minute response and a 25-minute response can be the difference between life and death. And he goes on to say that crash detection technology, which can automatically alert emergency services, should be compulsory on motorcycles. He says it's not a luxury, but a life-saving necessity. And he claims the UK government has been slow to support and roll out the innovation. Well, as he's been an MP since 2019, of course, that would include the previous administration. Anyway, that's all well and good if there were actually any ambulances which could reach the rider. Now, the fact is that the ambulance response times in England deteriorated significantly under Conservative governments between 2010 and 2024, reaching their worst levels on record in 2022, when average response time for a life-threatening incident topped 10 minutes. Ordinary emergency calls, such as a stroke or heart attack, ordinary emergency call, they are supposed to have a 90-minute response time. They took an average of 93 minutes. So memo to self there, don't fall off the bike. Now, in an Instagram video posted by Liverpool-based Danny's Driving School, it was claimed that people who had been driving for years were just learning about the real reason behind the blacked out space on the lollipop between the warning and the children crossing symbol. Well, obviously that's a bit of a statement there to attract attention anyway. I watched the video and Daniel said it's a little bit of a band, and you'd use a piece of chalk to write down the registration of the car that's just gone through. School crossing officers would pass their report and the vehicle registration on to the police or local traffic wardens to take action against drivers who violated their order to stop. I'm not quite sure what local traffic wardens would have to do with it, but I hit the mental pause button at that point. I've passed plenty of school crossing patrols, but I've never ever seen anyone writing a registration number on the black zone with chalk. And then he made an even more surprising claim, quoting that newer ones have got cameras in so they can see who drives through and just video them. I honestly can say I had never heard of this either, so I did some digging, and it turns out he's right. Back in 2010, Bath and North East Somerset Council's traffic and safety team, they purchased 3 route safe monitors, which seem to be handheld lollipops with these built-in cameras. But what I can't tell you is if this technology has spread. Now, clear signage, though, is a legal requirement to advise drivers that they're entering an area where they could be filmed by CCTV. And it is true the footage could be used as evidence, although whether any prosecutions have ever followed also isn't clear. Anyway, good catch, Daniel. Every day is a school day, even for me. Right, Kevin's looked in, and as I was just about to give the weather forecast, he has told me that it's grey with intermittent showers along the south coast. So the good news is that following a damp morning, many southern and central areas will turn drier, and there should be some brightness spreading in from the west by lunchtime. Now, it will feel mild nationwide, but later on, gales are likely as the winds strengthen in the west. Now, Monday looks to start unsettled with the wind and rain moving eastwards across the country, but winds should ease by the end of the day. Temperatures remain above average. Tuesday sees a return to high pressure, and that should lead to drier and brighter conditions overall. The north will see the best of the sunshine, but patchy cloud and rain may linger elsewhere. Wednesday looks similar before a new frontal system is expected to move across the UK on Thursday, bringing a return of rain and potentially stronger winds, especially in the north and west. Now, looking further ahead, high pressure is forecast to establish itself again, particularly across the south and the southeast, and that should lead to plenty of dry weather and some sunshine. So as we enter meteorological spring today, it's looking up a bit after the constant rain of the last 2 months. Temperatures for the week near normal or somewhat above normal, though there will still be overnight frosts, and fogs do remain possible during clearer spell. Fog. Right, okay, so that's the weather forecast. Let's shift on to the first of the story. Well, this one's a concerning one. Obviously, I'm sure you're aware of the events yesterday when the United States and Israel launched coordinated military strikes on Iran. And that means concern must be growing for a British couple who were detained during a round-the-world motorcycle tour. Now, Craig and Lindsay Foreman, they were arrested by Iranian authorities on the 3rd of January last year, 2025, while on their trip, and they were later accused of security crimes. Now, on 19th of February, so just last month, they were both sentenced to 10 years in prison on the espionage charges, allegations that both the couple and the UK government themselves strongly rejected as baseless. So that's not the right picture. I've jumped to it once. Let's come back one. There they are. So yeah, Craig's a carpenter, Lindsay is a psychologist and a life coach, and they both had valid visas and itinerary, obviously including crossing Iran. They were arrested in Kerman province and then transferred to separate wings of Tehran's rather notorious Evin prison. The family have said the charges are unfounded. They pointed out that no evidence of spying has actually been presented. The UK Foreign Office has called the sentence completely appalling and totally unjustifiable, and the couple right openly documenting their journey and said to have no political involvement. Now, the case does underline, of course, the risks facing long-distance riders crossing politically sensitive regions, where there are easily misunderstood suspicions around photography, around GPS devices, and use of social media. Now, at the time of their arrest, the Foreign Office advice did urge caution for British nationals travelling through Iran, pointing to ongoing diplomatic strain between the two countries. And it's hard to see, frankly, how yesterday's events will move them along towards a speedy release. So I hope for the best for them. Now, an e-bike rider who was riding an illegally modified e-bike when he hit a pedestrian has been banned from driving for 6 months. Henry Morgan, 61, so not exactly a youngster, he was overtaking a bus when he collided with a man in his 60s attempting to cross the Uxbridge Road in Shepherd's Bush here in London on the 28th of February last year. The pedestrian sadly died of a head injury following the accident. Now, the London court last week heard that whilst he originally faced a criminal investigation, it was ultimately found that Morgan was not responsible for the crash. But on Friday, the Magistrates Court at Westminster heard that the bike had been illegally fitted with a throttle, so it could reach speeds up to 27 miles per hour. Morgan pleaded guilty to driving the modified bike without a license or insurance, using an illegally enhanced e-bike, and failing to wear appropriate headgear. I didn't know there was actually an offence of using an illegally modified bike, but there we go, there must be one. Now, there have also been 2 more bike jacking incidents in recent days. The first one, 3 teenage boys aged between 13 and 16 have been charged following a machete-armed robbery in which they approached a delivery rider at traffic lights in Prestwich in Cheshire. They threatened him with knives. They stole his motorbike. The incident happened around 6 p.m. on Tuesday, 24th of February, and officers supported by helicopter patrols and the Tactical Vehicle Interception Unit tracked and located the stolen machine, and 4 machetes were recovered at the scene. All 3 remain in custody as of time of writing, and due to appear at Manchester Magistrates Court. Charges include robbery, affray, and possession of offensive weapons and bladed articles, and 1 boy has also been charged with driving offences and drug possession. Now, on the same day, another motorcyclist was assaulted and bike stolen in a Stoke-on-Trent Street robbery around noon. According to Staffordshire Police, 2 suspects threatened and attacked the rider before fleeing on 2 motorcycles. The National Police Air Service and a dog unit were deployed to track the pair. The victim did escape a serious injury, but unfortunately they made a getaway. So police have launched an urgent appeal for CCTV footage, dash cam, doorbell footage. Anyone with information is asked to contact Staffordshire Police. Right, okay, so where's my picture gone? Hang on a minute, I've lost my picture. Well, the story is that Staffordshire Police have managed to recover some motorcycles. Here they are, just popping up on screen any moment. They were found in a container, as you can see. And I've lost my notes. Where are my notes gone? Oh, God. Frustrating when things go wrong. There we go. I must have clicked the wrong button. Now, what happened was the bike was reported stolen on Friday the 20th last month. The tracker was activated though, and that led them to this storage site in Bedworth. Now, Bedworth is actually outside Warwickshire. So although the location wasn't in their normal policing area, they did actually go to the site where they found the bikes in this shipping container along with the stolen machine, there were 4 other machines. Now, these were all reported stolen as far back as October last year, and it's believed that the bikes were destined to be removed from the UK. So they should be back with their owners sometime in the not too distant future, which is good news. Right, okay, quick break while I take a sip of tea. As always, can I ask you to take a moment to like and subscribe to this show if you've not already done so? Every click helps other motorcyclists discover my content, or simply share the word the old-fashioned way by telling your riding buddies about Elevenses they can watch on catch-up. Remember, my latest riding skills articles are always free, and you can get all the links delivered weekly to your email inbox by subscribing to my newsletter at survivalskills.substack.com. Or you can use this QR code to jump straight to it, when the show's over of course. No spam, and if you don't like the content, unsubscribe at any time. Right, okay, so moving on to the next story. Let me try and get the picture correct. Making a mess of this morning. There we go. Now, in London here, a body cam footage has been released showing the pursuit of a rider. Spotted with a false number plate in Walthamstow. He crashed into a police bike and he was arrested following a foot pursuit where he was found to be following drugs, but police backtracked along the route and they recovered a large gold sword that had been dropped by the suspect during the chase. And another incident on Thursday, a police vehicle was involved in a crash with an off-road motorcycle. The rider was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The incident happened shortly after midday on Thursday near Flint in Flintshire. No statement has been made as to exactly the circumstances of the crash, but North Wales Police have made the Independent Office of Police Conduct aware of the incident. Here's another chase of a very different sort. Let me get the photo up. There we are, and I'll zoom in so you can see exactly what's going on there. That, as you probably figured out, is an elephant. It's a 19-year-old bull, and it sparked chaos in Buriram after becoming aggressive during a breeding session, and it went on a brief rampage that left vehicles damaged and one man seriously injured. The elephant, named Fly Petch Uthai, had been brought in to mate with a female. But when his handler attempted to separate the pair, what happened was that the animal then attacked him. The owner suffered a lung injury. The elephant then overturned a parked car, damaged a pickup truck, and chased this motorcyclist along the road. Villagers apparently fled as the incident unfolded. Now, eventually, teams from the Elephant Kingdom Hospital managed to tranquilize the elephant, a process that took around 2 hours, and thus brought him under control. Now he's under veterinary supervision apparently, but sadly his handler remains in hospital. Right, so I've managed to get my photos in the wrong order again. I thought I had them all nicely sorted. There they are. This is the next one. Police in Dublin this time. Now they've seized more than 60 scramblers, quad bikes, scooters and e-bikes, along with £20,000 worth of drugs. This was a major crackdown as they carried out 18 searches of homes in Finglas, Canberra and Blanchardstown. This was on February the 20th. And they were targeting drug supply and associated criminal activity. The vehicle seizures all form part of this ongoing attempt to prevent the illegal use of these machines in urban areas. 29 scramblers seized. Let me give you a little zoom in there. 21 e-scooters, 3 e-bikes, 3 quad bikes and 1 mini motorcycle. One man has been arrested and has since been charged, and he's due to appear in court at a later date. Now, a story I did miss was the death of Paul Sample on the 27th of January. Now, you probably know him for his anarchic Ogre cartoon strip. But he also illustrated the covers of paperbacks, memory from Tom Sharp, also Flann O'Brien. He created posters for BBC Radio 2 and advertisements for the Post Office, Ford, Dunlop and British Airways. And personally, as soon as I bought the latest copy of Bike Magazine, which I did without fail, I'd turn straight to the back page and I'd look again at the cartoon later too, because there were always little hidden details that I missed on that first read. Every inch of his cartoons always said something. If you want to find out a little bit more about the man, I can seriously recommend this article that is on the Riders Digest site. That's the wrong... Right, that was supposed to be the link. For some reason it didn't copy. Let's try again. There we go. There is the link to the Riders Digest article going up. So if you want to have a look and find out a little bit more about Paul Sample, that's the place to go. Right, so on with a strange piece of news here from the world of motorsport. Oxford Products is considering withdrawing its sponsorship of the British Superbike Championships because the series has signed Zinn, which is owned by Philip Morris International, who you probably know are a tobacco giant, as the title partner for 2026. Now, Oxford have said they're concerned about being associated with the promotion of nicotine pouches, which they describe as a form of substance addiction that runs counter to their philosophy of making life on bikes better. Now, this controversy harks back really to the bad old days of motorsport, when cigarette brands splashed their logos and their distinctive color schemes across GP bikes, and tobacco sponsorship dominated the paddock. You'll probably recall Marlboro Reds, Lucky Strike Whites, Bench and Hedges Black and Gold. They were almost as famous as the riders themselves, these colour schemes. And of course, they even made it onto factory bikes too. Young fans were therefore constantly exposed to this message promoting an addictive product. Now, the law eventually caught up with tobacco advertising. Oxford's stance reflects broader unease, though, among public health advocates about these nicotine pouches, because they fly below the traditional tobacco regulation. They're marketed as tobacco-free alternatives, so they're not currently covered under UK tobacco advertising laws. But the whole point is that they still deliver the addictive nicotine, and they benefit from lax promotional rules that do not include age of sale limits or specific sponsorship restrictions. I'm sure that at some point the government will move on that, but knowing governments, it's likely to take quite a while. Right, quick break while I take a sip of tea again. If you enjoy these shows, why not become a member of my Ko-fi pages? Just follow the QR code and sign up. As a member, you get free access to the latest articles and the Survival Skills ebook shop, with instant downloads of everything from free mini ebooks to ebook versions of my paperbacks. Become a one-off supporter and you'll open up the archive of over 1,000 articles. If you buy me a monthly cuppa as a subscriber, there's even more content to enjoy. Right, so on that note, I just want to thank the last week's coffee supporters and subscribers, who are Helen, Brian, Josette, Dave, Alan C, Brian, he nabbed the Crash Scene Junction ebook, Mike, Kay Simmons, Nick, and our good friend Anonymous. Thank you all very much indeed for your support. It's very, very much appreciated indeed. Helps me keep producing these shows, helps me keep writing new books. Right, okay, so on with some bike news. Let's get the relevant picture for that up on screen. There it goes. Now, this is an interesting story because the China-based Suron, who you probably know supply an awful lot of the illegal e-bikes which are zipping around the streets in the UK, they have been awarded $10 million after a federal jury in Austin, Texas, found the Hong Kong-based Talaria technology liable for quote, willful infringement of Suron's design patents. Now, the case revolved around two former Suron executives who founded Talaria and, according to the court, leveraged confidential knowledge and design materials from Suron to produce the Talaria Sting, a machine which is said to be strikingly similar to Suron's Light B. Talaria argued that differences such as the gearbox configuration and seat height distinguished their bike, but the jury concluded that the overall geometry and engineering clearly mimicked Suron's patented design and the copying was deliberate. Interesting one, that. Basically, I would love to know how a court in Texas has jurisdiction over two companies based in China. And I would also be interested to know exactly how one motorcycle infringes the design of another. You know, the two wheels are connected to forks, frame, and a motor. There's only so many ways you can connect them. Anyway, I'll leave that one to you to puzzle out while we talk about Royal Enfield. Now, they are gearing up for a major expansion. They hit record 2025 sales. They pushed the brand past 1 million annual motorcycles for the first time ever. And the parent company, EICA Motors, has approved a near £8 million investment to lift production capacity from 1.46 million to an astonishing 2 million bikes a year by their financial year 2027-2028, so a couple of years off yet. And they are investing that money in brownfield expansion at their Chayar plant in Tamil Nadu, and that will begin to be built sometime later this year. Now, alongside this manufacturing boost, Royal Enfield is preparing what's described as an aggressive 2026 model offensive. There will be multiple new 650cc twins and also 750cc twins, a new engine, a long-awaited Bullet 650. The 750 is expected to underpin a larger Himalayan design. And of course, there's also the first electric motorcycle, the Flying Flea C6 in the wings. That should be out soon. And they will be celebrating 125 years of existence too. So look out for special anniversary editions. They won't let that one pass in a hurry. The next machine, let's have a quick look at it. I should have a picture of it, and indeed I have. Let's give you a quick zoom in. Now, this is the Moto Morini unpronounceable 450. It's the all TR hike. TR presumably is a shortening for terrain, that would be my guess, but whatever it is, it's joining the number of cars where the name is actually unpronounceable, so I will just refer to it as a 450 Morini. Anyway, Morini, founded in Bologna 1937 by Alfonso of the same name. His company is one of motorcycling's historic marks. Now, the brand went through a number of financial difficulties and several ownership changes, and it went under, sadly, in 2009, but it's been relaunched under the ownership of China's Zongneng Vehicle Group in 2018. They do maintain a design and R&D center near Milan in Italy, but the final assembly, the production of the models, including this 450 unpronounceable, takes place in Taizhou in China. And that allows, they say, Moto Morini to combine Italian styling with competitive pricing. So let's take a look at the details of this machine. It's a Euro 5 compliant 449cc liquid cooled parallel twin. It's obviously an adventure bike style, and it's aimed directly at A2 license holders because it's a 45 horsepower engine. Comes in 8,500 RPM, and you get 31 pound-feet of torque. I usually convert that to Newton meters, but I forgot. 6,250. So pretty sort of bang on the sort of 450, 500cc figures there. The bike gets a steel trellis frame. It's paired with an aluminium swing arm, KYB handle the bike suspension. There's a 41mm fully adjustable upside down front fork, and that gets 208mm of travel, which is plenty. The rear gets a monoshock too, but it gets a progressive linkage. It's not just a direct connection, and that provides 190mm of travel. Brakes are from the Juan brand, which is a subset of Brembo, I seem to remember. 4-piston radial caliper up front, twin piston rear, Bosch injection, ABS, which is dual channel, presumably from Bosch 2, I'd guess, and it can be deactivated at the rear for off-road use. Now the front holds the tank holds 18.5 litres, which is plenty. That's over 4 gallons, if I remember correctly, UK. The display is a 5-inch TFT, pretty standard these days with navigation, but it does get some ports, USB and USB-C. The windshield is adjustable. There is a dual seat, and the front part of it tilts. It doesn't actually go up and down, but it tilts to help accommodate different riders. And seat height is fairly high at 840mm, but the dry weight is 190 kilos, so probably something around 210, 215 fueled up and ready to roll. So it's not too heavy. The bike, though, is light on price because it undercuts rivals such as KTM's 390 adventure models. It retails at just £5,299. Right, okay, so let's move on to something that doesn't retail for anything like the price as we look at the in-depth item for today. I'm going to ask about the sort of relevance or otherwise of Brough Superior's Special Edition RM-B01. Now, if the Moto Morini looks entirely relevant to newer riders and those simply looking for a lighter, less expensive ride, the same really can't be said for the Brough Superior. Now, the motorcycle market is going through an undeniably difficult period. There's two-wheel stock sitting unsold in the United States and Europe. Dealers themselves are struggling left, right, centre. There are failures all over the place. Sales have plunged. But it can't prevent certain manufacturers deciding it's perfect time to launch expensive motorcycles. And this is one of the most expensive motorcycles I've ever seen. Let's grab a look at it. It should be there on the screen. There it is. Give you a zoom in view. This is the Brough Superior. The brand made famous by Lawrence of Arabia, of course, is now French owned. And they are reportedly charging, wait for it, €240,000. I'm not getting my digits wrong, as I often do. €240,000. This is the Richard Mille Special Edition RM-B01. It's billed as nothing less than the world's finest machine, and only 150 will be made in Toulouse. Now, in case you didn't know, and I confess I had absolutely no idea who Richard Mille is, it's a Swiss watch manufacturer. And the link is apparently that there are, quote, numerous parallels between watchmaking and motorcycle mechanicals. What you don't tend to see anybody ever asking, though, about these kind of bikes is the slightly awkward question, why? Because whatever these machines are, they're not motorcycles. They are luxury artifacts. They're like a sculpture, a painting, even that high-end watch. They're part investment, part conversation piece for the kind of people who already own other conversation pieces. Take Arch, for example, the motorcycle manufacturer. They're co-founded by Keanu Reeves and Gerd Hollinger. If Reeves has the cash to splash to build his own bikes, fine by me. But the way the bikes are actually marketed, such as the Method 143, it's what's known as a halo strategy. Their marketing proudly tells us how the bespoke handcraft machines, Arch I'm talking about, have over 2,000 parts. They're CNC machined in-house, they're hand built, and the production run is capped for the latest Method 143 at just 23 machines, meaning that anyone, of course, who owns one joins a very, very exclusive club indeed. And that, of course, is precisely why machines like the Bruff and the Arch get column inches. You know, perfectly competent 9,000 pound mass market middleweight isn't much of a headline, but you know, motorcycle that costs as much as a house is, because it gets a reaction. In my case, I would admit it's mild bemusement that anybody would actually spend that kind of cash on something that you're going to stick a pair of Pirellis on and go riding. But the effects go deeper. Because you can frame these ultra expensive motorcycles as halo products, it allows the motorcycle industry more generally to change the language around two-wheelers. Now, framing motorcycling as sort of refined rather than functional, as culturally important rather than utilitarian, it shifts the playbook. It nudges motorcycles away from their basic transport routes to become works of engineering artistry and lifestyle importance. So these machines actually legitimize the idea that motorcycles more generally are aspirational purchases rather than rational ones. And that allows mainstream manufacturers to nudge prices upwards. The ultra expensive machines make everything below them look reasonably priced, even when they aren't. And take a look at this particular machine here. I'm going to give you a little zoom in look because you may be able to make out the price down in the bottom corner. This is an MV Augusta. It's a limited edition bike. There's a new version of this with a sort of revised color scheme coming out sometime soon. But just look at the price down there, £44,000. And this is from a brand that publicly said just a few weeks ago that they were stepping back from this premium pricing model that had been pursued while KTM owned this Italian manufacturer. Now, BMW have always worked this angle too. They've always added a price premium for the sort of the cachet of Bavarian engineering. I still remember a friend of mine who bought a BMW 450, rather nasty twin from the early 80s. He could have bought, I think, two Honda Super Dream 250s for the same price, but he bought the BMW and discovered it had exactly the same performance as the Hondas. And another company that's, you know, worked hard to move away from sort of sporty motorcycles to luxury brand is, of course, Ducati. The Ducati Street Fighter V4 Lamborghini, you may recall from a couple of years back, I did feature it on the show. It was a limited production run, just 693 units, with 63 of those reserved for the car owners. And even at the 55k plus price for the base model, it's sold out in hours. So, you know, why tie up with a car manufacturer? Well, the answer is to reinforce the idea that you're not buying a bike, you're buying into the culture. The same goes for the Swiss watch. Now, if you doubt that, Ducati proudly marketed a capsule collection. I had to look that up. Basically, it's a range of clothes for owners to, quote, complete their look. It's less about riding the bike and more about posing beside it. Now, BMW didn't stumble into their premium pricing strategy accidentally, nor did Ducati. In fact, they're a brand that has pursued this with considerable skill. You know, having established that their bikes are art on wheels, it's much easier for riders who are not going to buy a £44,000 machine, but are looking at a new monster to splash £15,000 on it. Remember, this is a bike that was previously a big hit because it was a budget parts bin special. It's arguably the bike that actually saved Ducati from financial ruin. So, you know, the fact that £250,000 motorcycles get so much coverage in the press isn't because they're actually relevant, but what it does tell us is probably more about the media. Anyway, the irony is, of course, that the actual riding experience of that perfectly competent middleweight has probably never been better. Right, okay, time to wrap up. I hope you found that last section interesting. I certainly found it interesting reading and researching it. So if you are interested, I have just well, a week or so ago launched my latest online e-course. 8 weeks long they are, and there is a new website at www.motoonline, where you can find out about that and my 1-hour online coaching sessions. I'll just pop the link up for those who are interested. I've got one space left on the current e-course. I've got 3 starters on that. So if you are interested, do drop me a line and go look at the motoonline.co.uk website. Nice and easy one to remember there. That is it. Thank you very much indeed for looking in live, or if you're coming along later on catch up. You've been watching Elevenses with Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training, and make a date to join me for the next show on Sunday next week for another roundup of news, views and biking tips. And if you are out there enjoying a ride on your bike today, make sure you stay shiny side up, and I will see you next time.